and welcome back to the Cracking FAANG YouTube channel. Today we're going to be solving Leetcode problem 818, Race Car. Your car starts at position 0 and speed +1 on an infinite number line. Your car can go in negative positions. Your car drives automatically according to a sequence of instructions, A for accelerate and R for reverse. When you get an instruction A, your car does the following. Its position is increased by the speed, its current speed, and the speed is multiplied by 2. If you get an instruction to reverse, your car does the following. If your speed is positive, then your speed becomes -1, otherwise your speed becomes 1, and your position will stay the same. Given a target position target, return the length of the shortest sequence of instructions to get there. So let's look at an example and try to figure out how we might do this. We're given a target 6, which is what we want to end up at, and we see that our output should be 5, but how do we get that? Well, we know that our speed in the beginning is going to be 1, right? Because it tells us it's +1, and our position is going to be 0, right? So let's kind of draw our number line. So we are at 0 and we want to get to 6 somehow. So we know that we're going forward in a positive manner, right? So we are going straight. So the first instruction for us to do to reach 6 is obviously we need to go forward. So to do that, we have to tell ourselves to accelerate. So that means that we're going to go forward. So we're going to issue an accelerate command. And the accelerate command is going to basically, our position is going to be equal to whatever our previous position was plus the speed. So now we're going to end up at 1. And, so our position now becomes 1 and speed is doubled. So now speed is 2. So now we're at 1. Well, we still want to get to 6, so we need to accelerate. So we're going to issue another accelerate command here. And what we're going to do is we are, going to end up where? Well, what happens when we accelerate? So the position is going to be equal to, plus equals to the speed. So we're going to end up at position 3 now because we add our speed, which is 2. And we multiply our speed by 2. So our speed is 4, so we end up at 3. So 3 is still not 6, so what do we want to do? Well, we need to essentially keep accelerating. So we're going to issue another accelerate command, and now our position is going to be equal to, we're going to add our current position plus the speed, so we end up at 7. So we're actually going to end up at 7 from here, and our speed is now going to get multiplied, so it's 8. So obviously we've gone too far now because we're at 7, but we need to be at 6. So we can't keep going forward. Otherwise, we're just going to get further and further away from 6. So from here, we need to issue a reverse command. So we're going to issue a reverse command. And what happens when we issue a reverse command? So our speed is positive. So that means our speed now becomes -1 and our position stays the same. So we're still at -7. Okay, so that means that our speed is -1, so we want to go to the left. So what we need to do is we now need to issue an accelerate command because now we're reversed, right? Our speed is in -1, so that means that we'll be traveling backwards. So we need to do that. So remember that when we issue the acceleration command, our speed gets multiplied by 2, so it's -2, so we're going -2, I guess miles or kilometers, whatever, in the opposite direction. And our position gets added to the speed. So since the previous speed was -1, we actually end up at 6, which is our final answer. So we can see that the sequence we had to do was A, R, A. And that's 5 commands, which is how we got the final answer of 5. So looking at it, it's pretty intuitive. If you had to work it out, you could probably figure this out drawing it out, but this is a coding problem. We need to actually put this into some sort of solution and figure it out. So let's think about an intuitive way that we can solve this problem. Okay, so we looked at an example, but it wasn't really clear how we can translate that simple example into actual code. So this problem is a hard problem, and it's asked by Google. So you're probably immediately going to jump to, shit, we have to use dynamic programming. And we're not going to do that. I hate dynamic programming. I don't do dynamic programming. So we're going to solve it another way, which is actually so much simpler and probably results in less lines of code and less you wanting to jump off a bridge somewhere because dynamic programming is the worst thing on earth. So let's think about this. We have our start position, let's kind of draw it here, and we have some end position, right? And we'll say that's another dot. And, there's certain, places. So if this is 0, right, and this is 6 for our kind of target, well, let's say this is 1, this is 2, and we're kind of just drawing them in arbitrary places. It doesn't really matter exactly where they are, these little dots. But what you begin to realize is that, getting from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, or maybe you go from 1 to 3 to 5 to 6 or whatever, you can actually represent this as a graph, right? These are really just nodes that you can traverse between. And what are we asked to find? We're asked to find the shortest sequence of instructions from how to get from point A, start, to point E. Well, if we can think about traversing from start to end as traversing a graph, which it really is, right? Because each one of the nodes that we can reach, I guess from 0 to infinity, obviously we probably don't want to go to infinity, we want to go to whatever our target is. Those are all nodes in our graph, and we can reach them, from 1, we can reverse to go back to 0. From 1, we could somehow end up at 3, we could end up at 4. So really all of these nodes are connected. And we're asked to find the shortest sequence, which should immediately scream to you that we want to use a breadth first search. So if we can initialize a breadth first search and basically maintain our kind of queue structure to get us closer and closer to the end every time, then we should be able to find the shortest path. And if we just count the amount of steps it took to get to, our end from the start, we know that breadth first search will always give us the shortest path, so we don't have to go down all of the possible routes like we would with the depth first search or something with dynamic programming. We can actually just do a BFS and we'll get there in the fastest possible time. So obviously this diagram is horribly messy. It's like spaghetti right now. But let's go to the code editor and write this out, because it's a whole lot simpler than you might think. And I think it's only about maybe 12 lines of code. So let's do that instead of trying to make sense of this jumbled diagram, which admittedly looks terrible. So I'll see you in the code editor. Okay, we're back in the code editor. Let's write the code. So this is a breadth first search solution, which means that we're going to need a queue, and we're going to need to initialize that queue with our initial position. So we're going to say queue equals collections.deck. And remember that we need to keep track of a few things. Those being our current number of moves, which obviously we've made 0 moves in the beginning, our current position, which is 0, and our current speed, which is 1. So we also want to use a visited set here to make sure that we don't accidentally visit combinations of position and speed that we've already been to, because then we'll just end up recalculating things. So let's set up a visited set to make sure that we can prune search paths that we've already been down. So now we do our breadth first search. So we're going to say while queue, we're going to say the current moves we've made, the position, and our current speed is going to be queue.popLeft. And now let's double check that we are not at our solution. So we're going to say if position equals to our target, that means that we're done. We've reached our target. And since it's a breadth first search, we know that we're going to reach it in the shortest possible sequence, so we can just return our moves. Otherwise, this means that we're not at our target and we need to continue going. So let's check that we actually haven't been here before. So we're going to say if position and speed in visited. So if we've already been here, and the way that we track it is if we've been at this position at a with the current speed. Obviously this combination, if it's in visited, that means that we've been there before. We can just continue to the next iteration of our breadth first search. Otherwise, this is a new position and speed combination for us, so we need to explore it. So we're going to say visited.add, and we're going to add the position and speed. Cool. Now what we want to do is we need to decide what to do. So we always basically want to try to go forward if we can. So let us go forward. And the way that we're going to do that, obviously we're going to make a move forward. So that would increase our moves. Our position, remember when we go forward, is position plus equals to speed. So we're going to say plus the speed is our new position, and we go speed times 2. Right, because the speed doubles when we accelerate. So obviously we can't just keep accelerating forever, because eventually we're going to hit a point where we shouldn't have accelerated and we basically need to go back, right? We can overshoot our target. So like in this example that we looked at earlier, we got to 7, but our target was 6. So at this point we need to reverse. So, but we only want to reverse in a few situations. The first situation is that, we've overshot our current position, right? Since we're moving forward at every iteration of our kind of search here, eventually we will overrun it. It's very unlikely that every single time we're just going to reach the target, perfectly. Most likely we're going to overshoot, because obviously the speed is doubling each time, and that means that the position is increasing, exponentially. So what we need to do is check, have we overrun our position, in which case we need to reverse, or are we not quite at our position? So for example, if the target is 6 and we're at 4, but we're actually going backwards, then obviously in that case we want to reverse, because we don't want to just keep going in the opposite direction. So those are our two cases where we actually want to issue a reverse command. So we're going to say if the position plus the speed would actually take us over the target and our speed is positive. Obviously, if the speed is negative, it's okay that we've overshot our target, because now we can just start going in the opposite direction. So this is the case where we're at 7, but we're still continuing forward. So we'd end up at 8, 9, 10, 11. We actually want to go the opposite direction. So this is checking whether or not we actually overshot our target and that our speed is still positive, which means that we'd be going even further away. The second condition is that we're actually below our target. So we're going to say position plus speed is actually less than the target, but the speed is actually negative. So for example, like on a number line, if we were at 4 and our target was 6, but we were actually going, to the left, right? That would take us further and further away from 6. We actually need to reverse so we can start going to the right and getting closer to that 6. So in those are the two cases where we actually need to issue that reverse command. And let's calculate what our new speed is, right? So if the speed, when we issue the reverse, is positive, then the speed becomes -1. Otherwise, the speed becomes 1. So let's say that the new speed is going to equal to -1 if the current speed is greater than 0. Otherwise, it becomes 1. Now we can add to our queue the new, direction that we're traveling. So we're going to say queue.append moves +1. Our position, remember that position stays the same when you issue a reverse command, and our new speed, which we just calculated. So we'll say speed. Cool, let me just run this, make sure I didn't make any syntax errors. Cool, it looks like it works. So let's submit this, and it flies. Cool. So what is the time and space complexity for this algorithm? This one is quite tricky. If our speed was constant, so every time we were just moving by 1, then it's a breadth first search. It would take us probably big O of n time in the worst case to reach our, target. But because every time we issue an acceleration command, and we're always accelerating basically, we always multiply our speed by 2. So because the speed is doubling each time, our time complexity is actually going to be log n, or I guess log t, where t is the target basically. So that is the time complexity, and the reason for it, again, it's a little bit confusing, but basically because our speed is doubling each time, that's why it's log 2, and it's actually log base 2 of t. I guess log, whatever you guys, it's normally log base 2 anyway. So it's, log base 2, similar to how, in binary search, our search space halves every time. In this problem, our speed is doubling each time, which is why we're able to reach it in basically, log t time. So space complexity for this one, again, if our speed was 1 each time, then it would be big O of t, where I guess t is the target. But because, again, we double each time, we're actually not going to visit every single place. So the space complexity is also going to be log base 2 of t. So that is how you solve race car. This is an interesting one because a lot of the solutions are actually dynamic programming. But like I said earlier in the video, I absolutely hate dynamic programming. I think it's the worst thing on earth. I don't think any interviewer should ever ask this garbage way of solving questions. I think it's total BS. And this is a much simpler, much more intuitive breadth first search solution, which is really easy to code up, easy to understand. And if your interviewer doesn't accept this, then they're really mean and they should reconsider their life choices, because it's a bit of a dick move to only want the dynamic programming solution. So that's how you solve race car with a BFS solution. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more videos like this, if you're prepping for your Google interview, your Facebook interview, your insert big company here, you're going to want to watch my videos. Subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video and have a great rest of your day.